The observation pod hung in silence above Earth's southern continent, its transparent floor revealing storm systems swirling thousands of kilometers below. Commander Vexithara of the Talreth Empire pressed one massive hand against the crystalline surface, her silver scales catching the light from distant stars. She stood nearly 3 meters tall, her muscular frame built for the heavy gravity of her homeworld. Her kind had conquered 14 systems. They had subjugated species twice their size and crushed rebellions with calculated efficiency. Yet here she was, alone in a human-built station, her heart's beating in a pattern she didn't recognize. "You're brooding again." The voice came from behind her, casual and warm. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She'd memorized every detail of Dr. Marcus Chen weeks ago. The way his dark hair fell across his forehead when he worked late in the lab, the crooked smile that appeared whenever he thought he'd said something particularly clever, the stubborn set to his jaw when he refused to back down during their debates about xenobiology. "I am observing," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. "It is what your people assigned me to do." "Right." His footsteps approached, soft against the metal floor. "That's why you've been staring at the same cloud formation for 20 minutes. She finally turned. He stood there in his usual lab coat, sleeves rolled up despite the station's climate control, holding 2 containers of the hot liquid humans called coffee. He was absurdly small compared to her, barely reaching her chest even when she stood at her full height. His species was fragile, breakable, with thin skin and bones that would shatter under the gravity that had forged her people into weapons. And yet he looked at her without fear. "I brought you something," he said, offering one of the containers. "Figured you might need it. The supply ship from Talreth Prime doesn't arrive for another 3 weeks, and you've been rationing your nutrition supplements." She accepted the container carefully, her clawed fingers dwarfing the ceramic cup. The gesture itself was unexpected, inefficient. He gained nothing from this kindness. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why do you persist in these interactions? I am here as part of the Treaty Observation Clause. You are assigned to ensure I do not sabotage your research. We are not—" She searched for the human word. "Friends." Marcus leaned against the railing beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his smaller body. Her species ran cold, their blood adapted to conserve heat. His proximity was like standing near a small sun. "Maybe I'm working on changing that," he said quietly. Her secondary eyelids flickered, a tell she couldn't quite control. "That would be inadvisable." "Yeah, you keep saying that." He took a sip of his coffee, his gaze drifting to the planet below. "You've been saying it for 6 weeks now. Yet here we are, having coffee and watching storms at 2 a.m. station time. I require minimal sleep. So do I, apparently. Funny how that works out. Before you continue, if you're enjoying this story, consider subscribing to HFY Sci-Fi for more tales of humanity's unexpected strength across the stars." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. That was perhaps the most dangerous thing about Marcus Chen. He had somehow made silence feel like a shared language rather than a void to be filled with tactical assessment. "Your people have a saying," Vexithara said finally, "about elephants and porcelain shops." "Bulls in china shops," Marcus corrected, amusement coloring his voice. "And yeah, we do. Why?" She gestured at herself with her free hand, careful not to spill the coffee. "This is what I am to your kind. Too large, too dangerous, too other. I have seen the way your security teams track my movements, the way they position themselves between me and civilian areas. They are right to do so. One miscalculation, one moment of lost control, and I could kill someone. I could kill you. You won't, though. You cannot know that. Can't I?" He shifted to face her fully, craning his neck to meet her eyes. "Vex, I've watched you work for 2 months. I've seen you manipulate instruments designed for human hands with more precision than most of our own technicians. Last week, When that containment breach happened in Lab 7, you moved so carefully around the evacuation that you didn't even disturb the paper on Yuki's desk. You're not a bull in a china shop. You're more like a Saint Bernard in a nursery. Big and intimidating, sure, but incredibly aware of your own strength. The comparison was ridiculous. It was also the kindest thing anyone had said to her in years. "That does not change the physical reality," she said, her voice rougher than intended. "Your people and mine, we are incompatible, in every measurable way." Incompatible for what? The question hung in the air between them like a challenge. She knew what he was asking. She'd known for weeks, ever since she'd caught him staring at her with an expression that had nothing to do with scientific curiosity and everything to do with something far more dangerous. "Marcus, just answer the question, Commander." He set his coffee down on the railing. "Incompatible for what? Working together? We've proven that wrong. Having conversations? We do that every night. Being friends? I'd say we're getting pretty good at that too. So what exactly are you trying to convince yourself we can't do?" Her pulse quickened, both hearts hammering against her ribs. This was the moment she should shut down the conversation. Cite regulations, reference the biological impossibilities, maintain the professional distance that kept both species safe. Instead, she heard herself say, "Everything else? Because of size? Because of reality." She turned away, unable to maintain eye contact. "Your medical files are not classified from treaty observers. I have read them. I know human physiology. I know your limitations. My people, we evolved to survive conditions that would crush your species. The biological differences alone." Vex. His hand touched her arm, so small against her scaled forearm that it should have been laughable. It wasn't. "Look at me." She did. His expression was serious now, the playfulness gone. "I'm not an idiot," he said. "I know we're different. I know there are challenges. But humans didn't get to the stars by looking at challenges and walking away. We got here by being stubborn, creative, and maybe a little bit crazy. So yeah, maybe the logistics are complicated. Maybe there's no manual for this. But if you're telling me the only reason you keep pushing me away is because you think you're too big, too different, too dangerous, then you're not giving either of us enough credit. You speak of logistics as if this were an engineering problem. Isn't it?" A hint of that crooked smile returned. "I solve engineering problems for a living. You command warships that can level cities. Between the two of us, I think we could figure out how to make coffee dates work." "This is not a coffee date." "Isn't it, though?" She wanted to argue. She wanted to list all the regulations, all the biological incompatibilities, all the very logical reasons why this was impossible. Instead, she found herself doing something she hadn't done in years. She laughed. It came out as a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through her chest, nothing like human laughter. Marcus's face lit up like she'd given him a gift. "There it is," he said softly. "I was wondering what that sounded like. You are absolutely insane." "Yeah, probably." He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him like a beacon in the cold of space. "But you like it. Admit it." "I admit nothing. You're still here. The observation deck is assigned to me during these hours. You could have left when I showed up." He had her there. She could have. She should have. Instead, she'd stayed, drawn by something she couldn't quite name, something that felt dangerously close to hope. "What do you want from me, Marcus?" The question came out quieter than intended, almost vulnerable. "What is the purpose of these conversations, these moments?" He was quiet for a long time, his expression thoughtful. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady. "Honestly, I don't know yet. Maybe I just want to know you. Maybe I want you to stop looking at yourself like you're a weapon that needs to be contained. Maybe—" He paused, then pushed forward. "Maybe I want to see where this goes if we stop telling ourselves all the reasons it can't work. The reasons are valid. Some of them, sure, but not all. Not the one you keep hiding behind. He reached up, an impossible distance for someone his size, and she found herself bending down without conscious thought, lowering herself until his hand could touch the side of her face. His palm was warm against her scales. You keep saying you're too big, too dangerous, too other. But Vex, when I look at you, that's not what I see. What do you see? Someone who's scared. His thumb traced the ridge of scales along her jaw, the touch feather-light. Someone who's been told her whole life that she's only valuable as a weapon. Someone who doesn't know how to be soft because she's never been given permission to try. The words hit harder than any physical blow could have. Her throat constricted, making speech difficult. I don't know how, she admitted finally. My people, we are not built for softness. Then learn. With me. His eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. Start small. Start here. Stop pushing me away because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. I could hurt you. You could, but you won't. And I trust that. He smiled again, soft and genuine. Besides, I'm tougher than I look. We humans, we're persistent, stubborn. We fall in love with things that could destroy us, and we call it poetry. We reach for stars that are light years away, and we actually get there. So yeah, maybe this is complicated. Maybe it's never been done before. Maybe everyone would tell us we're crazy. They would, probably. But here's the thing about humans, Vex. We really don't care. She should say no. She should list all the protocols, all the biological impossibilities, all the very rational reasons why this was a terrible idea. Instead, she found herself lowering her head further, bringing her face level with his. This is inadvisable, she whispered. Extremely, he agreed. There are no protocols for this. We'll write new ones. Your people will object. My people objected to colonizing Mars, too. We did it anyway. His hand moved to the back of her neck, his fingers barely able to span a fraction of the distance. Stop thinking like a commander for 5 seconds. What do you want, Vex? Not what's logical, not what's safe. What do you actually want? The answer terrified her more than any battle ever had. You, she breathed. I want you, and I do not know how. Then we figure it out together. He pulled her closer, bridging the impossible distance between them. Start here, right now. Stop thinking about everything that could go wrong and just be here, with me. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of him against her face, the steady rhythm of his too-fast heartbeat, the absolute insanity of this moment. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, impossible, dangerous. But beneath that, quieter but stronger, was something else. Something that felt like the first sunrise after a long darkness. Something that whispered, maybe. I am here, she said quietly. I do not know what comes next. Neither do I. His breath was warm against her scales. But that's okay. We're both scientists. We know how to experiment. We know how to test hypotheses. So here's mine. I think we can make this work. I think you're not too big, too dangerous, or too different. I think you're scared. And I think maybe I am too. But I also think maybe that's okay. Your hypothesis has insufficient data. Then let's gather some. His lips brushed against the scales of her cheek, gentle as a whisper. Let's run the experiment. See what happens when we stop telling ourselves no. Her hearts hammered against her ribs. This was insane. This was impossible. This violated approximately 17 different regulations and probably several laws of physics. She didn't care. You are absolutely insufferable, she murmured. Yeah, but you like it. She did. Stars help her, she really did. If we do this, she said slowly, if we explore this, there will be complications. Undoubtedly. Your people will question my objectivity as an observer. My people question everything. It's kind of our thing. There are physical logistics that We'll figure them out. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes again. Vex, listen to me. I'm not asking for forever right now. I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm just asking you to stop saying no because you think you should. Stop hiding behind impossibility when what you really mean is you're scared. I am a Talrith, Commander. We do not— You're scared, he repeated gently. And that's okay. I'm terrified too. This is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done, and I once tried to hotwire a fusion reactor with a paperclip. But Vex, I haven't felt this alive in years. These conversations, these moments, they matter. You matter. Not as a treaty observer, not as a representative of your species. You. Vex Thera, the person who spends her nights watching storms because they remind her of home. Who reads human poetry when she thinks no one's looking? Who laughs like thunder and moves like water and looks at me like, maybe I matter too. Her vision blurred, moisture gathering in her eyes. Her species didn't cry often, but when they did, it meant something had broken through armor that should have been impenetrable. You terrify me, she admitted. Not because of what you could do to me, because of what I want to do with you. For you, the ways I want to be softer, the ways I already am when you are near. I have spent my entire life being a weapon. I do not know how to be anything else. Then learn. We'll learn together. His hands cupped her face as much as they could, his touch impossibly gentle. No protocols, no manuals, just us, figuring it out, making mistakes, trying anyway. What do you say, Commander? Want to run this experiment with me? She should say no. She should maintain professional boundaries. She should protect them both from the complications that would inevitably arise. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his, the gesture of deep affection among her people. He seemed to understand instinctively, his hand sliding to the back of her neck, holding her as close as the size difference would allow. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I want to try. His answering smile could have lit the entire station. Yeah? Against all logic, against all probability, yes. Okay then. He laughed, the sound bright with relief and joy. Okay, so, now what? I have absolutely no idea. Good. Me neither. We'll figure it out as we go. He pressed a kiss to her scaled forehead, tender and sure. Fair warning, though. I'm probably going to be terrible at this. That makes two of us. Perfect. We can be terrible together. She laughed again, that deep rumbling sound that still felt foreign but increasingly right. You are going to cause me so much trouble. Oh, definitely. But you like trouble. Admit it. She pulled back enough to look at him properly. This small, impossible human who had somehow slipped past every defense she'd built over decades of military service. He was looking at her like she was something precious, something worth the risk, worth the complications, worth the absolute insanity of what they were attempting. I like you, she said, the words feeling like a confession and a revelation all at once. I like you far more than is logical or safe or advisable. Good, because I like you too. Your turn to admit you've been thinking about this for weeks. I have been thinking about this since the day you first challenged my analysis of quantum probability fields, and then had the audacity to be correct. That was week 1. Yes, it was extremely inconvenient. He grinned. I'm good at being inconvenient. It's one of my best qualities. It is absolutely one of your worst qualities. Potato, tomato. He glanced at the chronometer on the wall. It's almost 3 a.m. We both have shifts in 4 hours. We should sleep. We should. Neither of them moved. Or, Marcus said slowly, we could stay here a while longer, talk, figure out what step 2 looks like, maybe establish some ground rules for this experiment. Ground rules? Yeah, like Rule 1. We're honest with each other. No hiding behind protocols or pretending this isn't happening. Agreed. Rule 2. We take this slowly. Neither of us has any idea what we're doing. Fair. Rule 3. He hesitated. We protect each other. From judgment, from complications, from whatever comes. Together. Something in her chest tightened at that. Together, she repeated. Yes, I can agree to that. They stood there in the observation deck, Earth spinning silently below them, stars scattered across the viewport like scattered crystals. Two beings from different worlds, different biologies, different everything, and somehow, impossibly, it felt right. Marcus? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For being stubborn, for not letting go. She managed a smile, still unfamiliar but getting easier. For seeing past what I am to who I might be. His expression softened. Vex, you don't have to be anything different. I like exactly who you are right now. The rest, that's just bonus. You are going to ruin me completely. Promise? She laughed again, and this time it came easier, more natural. Maybe that was what he'd been giving her all along. Permission to be something other than a weapon. Permission to be uncertain, vulnerable, hopeful. Permission to simply be. Come, she said, making a decision. If we are going to do this properly, you should teach me about human courtship customs. I suspect I have been doing this entirely wrong. Oh, you've been doing fine. But yeah, we should probably talk about expectations and stuff. He started toward the exit, then paused. Fair warning, though. Human courtship is kind of weird. Weirder than what we are already doing? Point. Okay, maybe not weirder, but definitely complicated. Everything about us is complicated. True. He held out his hand, an invitation. She looked at it for a long moment. His fingers so small compared to hers, his skin so fragile, the entire gesture ridiculous given their size difference. She took his hand anyway, careful not to apply any pressure, marveling at the warmth of his skin against her scales. Come on, he said, leading her toward the corridor. I'll make us more coffee. We'll talk. Figure out how this works. Make a plan. You want to plan spontaneity? I'm a scientist. I plan everything. He squeezed her hand gently. Besides, even chaos needs a framework. We'll build ours as we go. They walked through the empty corridors of the station, an odd pair that should have been impossible. The massive Talreth warrior and the small human scientist, hand in defiance of every logical objection. And perhaps that was the most human thing of all, Vexathara thought. To look at impossibility and see only an interesting challenge. To face the void and build bridges across it. To reach for something beautiful and fragile and complicated, and hold on with everything you had. She glanced down at Marcus, his profile illuminated by the soft glow of the corridor lights. He was smiling, that crooked expression that she'd memorized weeks ago, and something in her chest settled into place. Too big to breed with a human, the reports had said. Too different, too dangerous, too other. But Marcus hadn't let go, and neither would she. Whatever came next, whatever complications and challenges and absolute insanity lay ahead, they would face it together. No protocols, no manuals, just two beings from different worlds, learning how to build something new in the space between stars. It wasn't safe. It wasn't simple. It wasn't anything like what either of them had planned. It was, however, exactly what both of them needed. And that, Vexathara decided, was enough.